They roamed the planet for longer than modern man. Neanderthals.
Neanderthals were superb survivors.
But then suddenly, they vanished.
For centuries, scientists searched for answers. Neanderthals were strong, intelligent, skilled hunters who survived brutal ice ages. Yet, 40,000 years ago, they disappeared from the Earth as silently as they lived.
Recent archaeological finds in England and France have helped researchers find out more about these early inhabitants of Eurasia.
DNA technology cracked open what the Earth had been hiding. And the truth rewrote everything we thought we knew about their extinction. The quietest extinction. For over 300,000 years, Neanderthals thrived across Europe and Western Asia. They built shelters from stone and hide, endured sub-zero winters, hunted mammoths and bison, cared for their sick, and adapted through one climate catastrophe after another. Their species lasted far longer than ours has, so far. But around 40,000 years ago, the record goes silent. Across the continent, archaeologists uncovered fire pits, stone tools, and footprints, snapshots of lives filled with intention and intelligence. Some caves even held shallow graves, sprinkled with pigments, suggesting ritual, memory, maybe even belief. Yet, every discovery ended the same way. The fires went out. The tools were abandoned. The people were gone. Early archaeologists called the search the hunt for ghosts. Neanderthals felt like a lost family branch, human-like, familiar, yet mysteriously erased. Even today, some researchers describe an eerie silence in Neanderthal caves, as if the inhabitants had stepped outside and simply never returned. Excavations across Europe, the Middle East, and Central Asia revealed the same pattern. Gradual abandonment. No signs of war, no catastrophic event, just a fading presence. This wasn't destruction, it was disappearance. The quietest extinction Earth has ever seen. The theories that lied. When the first Neanderthal bones were found in the mid-1800s, they shocked the world. Human-like, yet different. Heavier skulls, thicker bones, shorter limbs. And with no tools to analyze them, people did what humans always do. They guessed. Theory 1. The Ice Age killed them. But excavations proved Neanderthals endured colder periods with ease. Theory 2. Humans exterminated them. But no mass graves, no weapon marks, no evidence of conflict ever emerged. Theory 3. Religion and folklore. From biblical floods to giants punished by angry gods, myths tried to explain the silence science could not. Theory 4. Neanderthals were inferior, unable to speak, less intelligent, less social. Then the discoveries began to break these ideas apart. Pigments, tools, jewelry, carvings, and burial rituals. Every new excavation made one thing clearer. They were not slow, dull, or primitive. They were human. By the 1970s, every theory had failed. Climate, war, divine punishment, inferiority. None explained a disappearance so widespread and so synchronized. The truth wasn't buried in the caves. It was buried in the bones.
The bones that wouldn't speak. For decades, Neanderthal fossils sat in museum drawers, mapped, measured, reconstructed, but silent. Scientists suspected the answers lay at the molecular level, but ancient DNA was too degraded to read. Attempts in the 1980s failed. Samples were contaminated by modern DNA. Machines couldn't read the tiny fragments. Many declared ancient DNA impossible, but a small team refused to give up. The code beneath the dust. At the Max Planck Institute in Germany, Svante Pääbo built one of the cleanest labs on Earth, sealed, filtered, sterilized. Scientists entered in full suits. Even a single human hair could ruin the test. Bone fragments were powdered and dissolved to release microscopic traces of DNA. Sequencing machines then read billions of broken pieces, and advanced software reconstructed them like a shredded book scattered for 40,000 years. And then it happened. A pattern appeared. A genome took shape. For the first time in human history, scientists could read the complete DNA of another human species. When that genome was compared to ours, the shock was immediate. Almost every person outside Africa carries Neanderthal DNA. The old story of replacement collapsed. Part of them had survived inside us. Families in the stone. DNA didn't just reveal biology, it revealed relationships. In Siberia's Chagirskaya cave, scientists sequenced the bones of an entire Neanderthal family, a father, his teenage daughter, and their relatives. It proved Neanderthals lived in tight-knit groups of fewer than 50 people. Women moved between groups. Men stayed in their home territories. Communities cooperated to avoid inbreeding. They buried their dead. They used pigments and ornaments. They cared for the vulnerable. The image of Neanderthals transformed from primitive brutes into humans with culture, emotion, and memory. But inside their DNA, scientists found something devastating. The secret hidden in their genes. The breakthrough that revealed their lives also revealed their death. Neanderthal DNA showed long, repeated segments, clear signs of severe inbreeding. Their numbers had collapsed. The species had splintered into isolated groups, some as small as a few dozen individuals. With each generation, their gene pool shrank. Children inherited the same limited DNA again and again. Disease spread more easily. Defects accumulated. Populations grew fragile. Meanwhile, modern humans arrived, larger in number, broader in networks, carrying new genes Neanderthals desperately needed but never received. Genetic exchange was one-sided. Humans absorbed Neanderthal DNA. Neanderthals gained almost nothing. Even worse, fragments of ancient viruses appear in both genomes, suggesting disease spread between the species. Humans with larger populations survived. Neanderthals didn't. It wasn't war. It wasn't climate. It wasn't inferiority. It was biology. A slow genetic suffocation that took thousands of years. By the time the last camps went silent, the countdown was already over. The legacy in our cells. Neanderthals vanished, but they didn't disappear entirely. Their DNA lives on in us, 1 to 2% of the genome of most people outside Africa. These fragments influence immune responses, skin adaptation, viral resistance, allergies, blood clotting, inflammatory reactions. Some variants helped ancient humans survive harsh climates. Others may contribute to modern health risks. It is a legacy of both protection and vulnerability. And it forces a deeper question. If a species as resilient as Neanderthals, creatures who survived ice ages, predators, and global climate shifts, could fall because their numbers were small, what does that say about the fragility of our own future?
Implications of the discovery that ancient DNA finally reveals why Neanderthals went extinct. The revelation hidden in Neanderthal DNA is more than a scientific milestone. It's a story about survival, fragility, and the forces that shape human destiny. For over a century, theories about Neanderthal extinction bounced between climate change, warfare, inferior intelligence, or biblical catastrophes. But the genetic evidence has now delivered the clearest picture yet, and its implications reach far beyond ancient history. They touch medicine, anthropology, human evolution, and even the future of our species. 1. Human evolution is more intertwined than we ever imagined. The biggest implication is simple but profound. Neanderthals didn't vanish. They blended into us. Their extinction wasn't absolute. Instead of being wiped out by a superior species, they became part of the one that survived. Up to 2% of the DNA in people outside Africa traces back to Neanderthals. This reshapes the entire narrative of human evolution from a ladder of replacement into a web of interaction, migration, and mixing. It shows that human history is not a story of constant conflict, but one of contact, coexistence, and interbreeding. 2. Their downfall was not a failure, it was mathematics. The genetic evidence reveals a more tragic truth. Neanderthals did not die because they were primitive. They died because they were few. Their small, isolated populations caused low genetic diversity, high levels of inbreeding, accumulation of harmful mutations, weak resistance to diseases, vulnerability to environmental stress. This has huge implications for understanding how species collapse. It proves that even a physically strong and culturally capable species can be undone by numbers alone. In evolutionary terms, survival isn't just about strength. It's about population size, connection, and gene flow. 3. Disease may have played a hidden role. Ancient DNA shows fragments of viral infections embedded in both human and Neanderthal genomes. This suggests pathogens passed between species during contact. But humans, with larger populations, could absorb and adapt to these diseases more easily. This discovery forces scientists to rethink the role of ancient pandemics in shaping human evolution. Disease, not violence or climate, may have quietly tipped the balance.
4. Neanderthal DNA still shapes human health today. One of the most unexpected implications is medical. Neanderthal genes influence immune system function, skin and hair adaptation, blood clotting, inflammatory responses, metabolism of fats, and even susceptibility to modern viruses. Some traits help us survive, others can make us vulnerable. This proves that ancient interbreeding still affects our bodies thousands of years later. Understanding this can lead to breakthroughs in personalized medicine as researchers learn how ancient DNA affects modern disease risk. 5. Their culture was closer to ours than we thought. The DNA findings, paired with archaeology, confirm that Neanderthals were not primitive cavemen. They used pigments and ornaments, they buried their dead, they cared for the sick, they crafted tools with precision, they lived in organized family groups. This forces a reevaluation of what it means to be human. Many traits once believed exclusive to Homo sapiens Symbolism, emotion, cooperation were present in Neanderthals too. Their extinction is no longer a story about evolutionary inferiority, but about circumstance. 6. The discovery warns us about our own future. Perhaps the most sobering implication: a species can be intelligent, skilled, and adaptable, and still lose everything if it becomes too genetically fragile. The Neanderthal collapse is a warning about population bottlenecks, loss of genetic diversity, dependence on small, isolated communities, susceptibility to pandemics. It raises hard questions about humanity's future, especially in a changing climate and a globalizing world where new diseases emerge rapidly. If a human species as resilient as Neanderthals could fall, what does it say about our own vulnerability? 7. Neanderthals are no longer them, they are us. The final implication is emotional as much as scientific. Their DNA runs through millions of people alive today. They didn't disappear. They became part of the human story. The extinction of Neanderthals is no longer a mystery. It is a reminder that history is written not only in fossils and stones, but in blood, inheritance, and the quiet code inside every cell.